Hey everyone and welcome back. So today I'm going to be taking you through the different methods to drying flowers and petals. So let's start off with my first method, which is actually just leaving them in a vase. So if you want to do this method, what you're going to need is a high-sided vase. I recommend something like this vase. This is a French country vase. Basically it's just very tall, very narrow, and that is exactly what you want. Now the key to drying flowers is you want to dry each flower individually. Or if you're drying them in a vase, you just want to have as few flowers as possible touching each other. So the ideal is to have the flowers about here, each going off in a slightly different direction, drying naturally in the air. Now how you do this is you want to empty out about 80 to 90% of the water that's remaining, and then you want to leave it for about a month. You can leave it for less, maybe 2 to 3 weeks if it dries quickly. It just depends on the climate and how the flowers are doing. But basically you want to just leave it in the vase with a little tiny bit of water, and then hopefully the flowers dry over the course of about 3 weeks. You can also use a vase like this. If you decide to do this, what you want to do is fold a paper towel or something like that up in sort of a square shape like this, and you just want to pop it into the vase like that, and that will just help bolster the wider mouth. The other thing is if you have a vase that is, a bit too short, what you can do is put this in the top of the vase, and that will extend the height of the vase. Aim is to have the flowers securely and vertically protected and situated in a vase so that they're drying but they're not falling over and making weird and wonderful shapes. Your next option is to hang flowers. Now hanging flowers upside down works really well, and I found the best method for doing this is hanging them individually. Even if you're making a bouquet, hang them individually on something like a coat hanger, and then hang that on a clothes dryer or underneath a desk or something like that, somewhere where it's cool, there's really good ventilation, and it's not too sunny. The reason for that, the sun will reduce the coloration of the petals, and the ventilation really helps. Now putting it in a closet does work. It's not the best way though. I often find the ventilation in a closet just isn't there, so I personally prefer to dry them either under a desk or on a clothes area in a darker place. The flowers that work best for drying upside down are definitely things like hydrangea, and the reason for that, hydrangea, lavender, that sort of thing, they have really sturdy stems. The woodier the stem, the better it's going to dry. You're going to have less loss of, petal, and it's just going to keep its structure a lot better. I do want to make sure that I say, if you have a really special bouquet, I recommend getting it professionally dried. They will just take really good care of it. There'll be a guarantee that if something goes wrong, you'll be compensated, whereas if you do it yourself, there is that risk there. So if you are drying more delicate flowers, either do the vase method or you can use silica gel, which is the next method. So what you want to do, you want to have a shallow dish. You want to put a thin layer of silica gel in the bottom, probably about 1 centimeter deep, okay? And then you want to add in your flowers. And then you put in a layer of more silica gel on top. Then you want to close that container up and leave it for 2 to 3 days. I personally prefer to do 3 days just to make sure they're completely dried. Silica gel is your best option because silica gel is completely color retaining. So it makes sure the flowers keep all of their coloration. You're not going to get any fading. It's a really, really great method. However, it is more expensive because obviously you have to go buy silica gel. Okay, so let's talk about drying petals now. My favorite method is actually using a cake protector. So this is just made of mesh. You can use any sort of mesh food container. And basically what you want to do is on this top piece, you want to put all of your petals. So I have a couple of examples here. Basically you want to take, these are actually already dried, but you put your petals on top, just like this. And you just leave these for about 3 to 4 weeks, and those will just dry. The reason I love this method so much is because you get ventilation through the sides, up under the bottom, and on the top. It's just 360 drying, and it's really, really great. I highly recommend this method, and you can pick these up for $1 from the $2 shop, so I highly recommend this. However, if you would prefer to use a simpler method with stuff you just have at home, paper towels. Personally what I do, I take a paper towel, I lie it flat on a plate or on a desk or something like that, and I just sprinkle my flowers on top and I leave them there for 2 to 3 weeks. This works well. The only thing I don't like about it is you don't get that drying action from underneath, but it still works very well. If you're looking for a more aesthetic method, I actually really love using cake plates. So basically what these do is they obviously normally sit like this, and you can put your flowers on top of here to dry, and it actually looks really beautiful, and you can get quite a large variety done in less space. Obviously you can do 2 layers. You can get really cute ones as well. Like, I don't know if you guys can see, but these are my favourites, they're gorgeous. The great thing with ceramic is obviously you can just wipe off anything, and generally the flowers aren't going to stick to ceramic. If you have a particularly sticky flower, baking paper. Baking paper is so good is because it just completely stops any sticking, and obviously you can just peel them off afterwards. This is also really great if you want to press flowers. So you want to use a fairly heavy book, so I'm going to be using this book. This is Rebecca for those of you who are interested. Basically you want to go to about halfway through the book or further back. You want to have one side that's heavier than the other or is just a decent weight. You want to take your parchment paper, okay, and rip off a bit. You want to take your book and place the parchment paper inside like so. I'm just going to go like this so I get it all nicely folded. And then you basically want to put your petals in here. So for example, this is already dried again, but I would put a petal in here like this. Keep it closed. You want to keep this closed for about, I would say minimum 2 weeks. You can do it without the parchment paper. I just always worry about the flowers sticking to the pages and damaging it. So I personally like to use the parchment paper. But yeah, highly recommend this method for pressing flowers. Now there are other methods. There's the oven method and the microwave method. I personally don't like those, and the reason for that is I just find the flowers tend to disintegrate after a while. They just tend to go a bit funky. I sometimes get a weird smell in the oven too after doing that, so I don't really recommend the oven or microwave method. I think naturally drying them or using silica gel is definitely the best way to go. I hope this helps. If you guys have any questions at all, I'm more than happy to answer them, so just pop those down in the comments, and I wish you all the best, particularly the person who's trying to dry peonies. I hope you have a beautiful bouquet at the end. Okay, see you guys.